Hello and welcome to another semester of General Chemistry 2. This is for General Chemistry 2 Lab, CHEM 106 Lab. And the purpose of this video is to walk you through a little bit of the material on the syllabus and to show you how to access your materials for completing the lab through lab archives. There will be a second video coming shortly after this that will actually get into the pre-lab for tomorrow's experiment, the introductory experiment that goes along with our usual course introductions and explanations. So without further ado, let's get into the actual material itself. And so for that, I'm gonna go over here to Blackboard. And I am over here in the Start Here area on Blackboard. So if you come in Blackboard, you come onto this homepage first, click on this Start Here, and what you'll find is the online syllabus and the schedule here. And I actually want to take a look at that syllabus first and foremost. So one thing that you'll notice, for those of you that did not have Dr. Tarbuck or myself in General Chemistry 1 laboratory, we'll be using lab archives this semester for the notebooking part of the class. So for those of you that were in another section or took this course some time ago, you probably remember how much fun it was to submit stuff in Gradescope and making sure that you had everything downloaded and in the proper format and everything like that. Gradescope is not part of this course. We'll be using Lab Archives. Lab Archives is a much more user-friendly way of submitting things online. And I'll show you a little bit more about that here in a moment. As far as access to lab archives goes, I'll show you how to access it here in a moment as well. I'll also tell you that there are two ways to gain access. One of them is in the bookstore. They will sell you a card with an access code information in on it. Basically, all you have to do is you'll give them the information. The bookstore will sell you the card. The card will tell you who to contact at Lab Archives to turn on your notebook and mark it as a paid account. It's a little bit wonky, but it actually, they do pretty well to get back to you quickly. The other way is to go through and order access directly on the Lab Archives website when you log in for the first time. Either way works fine. If for some reason you cannot purchase access at this time, Lab Archives will allow you to have a 3-week trial, in which time it will give you just enough time to go out and find that $15 to access the material for the rest of the semester. So that's Lab Archives. And so everything that we do for this class, with very limited exceptions, is going to be run through Lab Archives. So you do not need to purchase a separate lab manual. You do not need to purchase a separate lab packet. You should have goggles already from, excuse me, from Gen Chem 1. So you shouldn't have to purchase anything really extra other than the access code for Lab Archives. I wanted to make you aware of CircleIn as well. CircleIn is a student-based platform for helping you to work with each other to study and draw material for the course. You get points for interactions on CircleIn. So if you make discussion posts, or if you post notes, or participate in study sessions with each other, all of that is accessible, and you earn points for that. And eventually you can turn those points into rewards like Amazon gift cards and that kind of thing. So its utility in lab may not be as much as in your lecture, but do know that you do have a version of CircleIn for your lecture, and it might be worth your while to go ahead and look at it and give it a look. As far as my information is concerned, everything that you have here, everything that you can see is complete and accurate. My office is in Updike 123. These are my office hours. I'm also available on Zoom during those hours on request. And if none of those hours work for you, and hopefully at least some of them should, you do have the option to send me a message and schedule a private Zoom with me on your terms. Just let me know when you're available and we'll try to work something out. This website here is for the playlist for CHEM 106. So the 106 lab playlist is here. In that playlist, you're going to find information about safety. You're going to find information about Prelabs, and sometimes even some helpers for getting you through the calculations portion of the labs that you're going to do. Skip all of this stuff, and you can kind of read this on your own. Do want to make you aware, CHEM 106 and its lab are linked and co-requisite, so you cannot drop out of one without dropping out of the other. So just be aware of that. Make sure that you're attending both and making the best of that. As far as lab dress is concerned, we want to make sure that we are dressed safely for lab. A lot of the labs that we are doing have some dangerous components to them, working with nasty caustic acids and bases, dealing with some corrosive stuff, some stuff that's highly oxidizing. So make sure that you're properly protected. You're covered from the shoulders to the floor. In some cases, we will be asking you to wear gloves. Gloves are not required for all labs, but there are some times where they certainly are recommended. You will need to wear your goggles the entire time we are working. And more on that in some of the safety material. Lab equipment. You're responsible for everything in the lab drawer. You're also responsible for what we give to you as common equipment to help you with the experiment, whether it's something like a spectrophotometer or a burette, things that are not in your lab drawer but are going to be used over the course of the experiment. You're responsible for them, and if they break while in your possession, we're going to expect that you pay for part of the replacement cost. Let's talk a little bit here about turning in your work. So in this class, all of your work is going to be due on a single night. And that single night is going to be the following Monday night. So we have lab in this class on Tuesdays and on Thursdays. Your experiments, your written data, your calculations, your conclusions, your post-lab questions, all of that stuff will be due on the following Monday night. We do this for one reason in particular, and it's simplicity. By having a common due date, it's very rare that we deviate from it. The only really times that we're going to deviate from it are this week because we don't have a lab on that Monday night, and I generally do not make things due on vacation days. And the second thing is we don't have any issues with, okay, well, when's this one due? Well, I did the lab on Tuesday, doesn't mean that it's due Wednesday night. Is this one due a week later or a week and a half later? That simplicity rules here. You do an experiment, it's due the following Monday night. Now, that also applies to the pre-labs. And so the pre-labs for each individual lab are also due on that Monday night, but it's the preceding Monday. So ordinarily, we have lab tomorrow, Tuesday. The pre-lab for that lab and for the lab on Thursday would both be due tonight, Monday night. For this week, again, things are a little bit wonky because of the week off and because we're starting out, so there's no actual pre-lab for tomorrow's lab. So due dates are a little bit different, but usually both of your pre-labs are due on that Monday night. Again, the idea here is simplicity. Now, if we need to make amendments to that based upon need, we can address that as it comes, but plan on turning everything in on Monday nights, both the labs that were due from last week and the pre-labs for this coming week. Now, because we are dealing with a course that has a very heavy online presence, electronic devices are going to be a very common part of the class. So if you have a laptop computer, I would encourage you to bring it to every single lecture or every single lab. If you don't, we have some that you can borrow. It's no big deal. They're a little bit on the older and slower side. So you just have to deal with that particular accommodation. But you'll have access to a computer for all of your assignments. And so that brings us to the course calendar. And you can see that for the course calendar here, we have a series of experiments each and every week. We're going to do 2 labs most weeks. So tomorrow's lab is the Intro to Lab Techniques. It is a 15-point report with a 10-point quiz. That 10-point quiz and the 15-point report are both due, in this case, Wednesday, January 20th. Because again, there's no class on Monday the 18th. Otherwise, they'd be due Monday the 18th. On Thursday, we'll be doing the calorimetry to determine heat of reaction. It has a 7-point pre-lab that is going to be due on Wednesday night. It has a 15-point report that'll be due next week, and the 10-point quiz that'll also be due next week. Next week, week 2, we have no lab on Tuesday because of Martin Luther King Day, canceling the Monday lab. So when Monday lab gets canceled, Tuesday lab gets canceled as well. And our Wednesday and Thursday activity is going to be this skill builder over thermochemistry. And I'll talk more about skill builders when we come to that first one next week. So you can see in our schedule here, you know what's coming up and what's going to be done. Now coming back here to Blackboard, if you go to this link for lab archives, what you'll see there is that we have assignments that correspond to those experiments. So the first assignment here is the safety contract. Now, the safety contract is not something that you're going to actually do. We're going to talk tomorrow about safety, but it would actually be a really great idea if in the process of getting ready for tomorrow, you went ahead and just did the material in the safety contract. So how this is going to work, for lab archives, to go into an assignment, you click on the link inside of the lab archives tab here that takes you to the particular assignment in question. It'll launch one of these guys. And what will come out on the other end is a screen that looks like this. And here's the assignment in question, the safety contract. Now, what your job will be to do, and hopefully you can do this before lab tomorrow, is I want you to watch this safety video. I want you to read this safety pamphlet, and I want you to read these rules and regulations. Now, if you don't get to them in time, if you don't get to them before the lab starts tomorrow, I understand. But what you need to do is the safety contract here says that you've read through all the material, you understand all of the things that you need to understand, and then you sign it here and here, saying that you're going to follow the rules. And this first assignment is worth 15 points. As far as the safety quiz is concerned, you're going to go into Blackboard here. And if you go to the lab quizzes, you'll see here's the safety quiz. you need to pass the safety quiz with a grade of 100% before our next meeting, which would be Thursday. If you don't pass with 100%, I can't let you start lab number 2. So that's what this is all about. And so what you'll do is for each experiment, you'll see I've got a folder here and it's got the different sections. So you click on the lab technique. It's going to say that they can't find me, mainly because I'm not a student and I don't have a student account. But what it looks like, what does it look like? It looks like this. And so here's what you need to do. Here's where you record all of your data. And then up here, here's your 10-point assignment, and you'll submit it. This rubric here actually tells you how you're going to be graded. To go from there to the next place, you click on the post lab, and the post lab link there would open up the next page. And you'd be able to access the, got signed out somehow. You'd be able to answer the post lab questions here and submit this assignment as well. So everything runs through Lab Archives. And what this will allow you to do is, as I grade it, it'll automatically drop your grade into the notebook. It'll automatically drop your grade into the grade book here in Blackboard. So as I grade your material, your grade updates in Blackboard. It's a very nice tool. All of your lab quizzes are going to be found here in the lab quizzes tab. And you can see that I've got a couple of quizzes loaded in here, but you won't be able to see some of them until actually we do the lab. So the only ones that you'll be able to see right now are the safety quiz and the lab technique quiz, because that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. But understand that this technique quiz, that's not due until next Wednesday. Same with this calorimetry, it's going to be due next Wednesday as well. One last thing. Here under the useful resources, I've thrown in here some good material. Things like your solubility chart, just in case you lost yours from Chem 105. Some appendices. These appendices are really useful, especially as we get into the later sections of the course, where we need information about bond energies or thermodynamic values or cell potential values. All of those are there. I've also put them in your notebook here in Lab Archives as well. Some information about the lab final when we get there. We're not there yet. So that's kind of a walkthrough for what you're going to be doing here in Chem 106. As far as this is just kind of clicking around here in Lab Archives is concerned. So again, when you get this, I strongly encourage you, go ahead, get into Lab Archives, set up your user account if you don't have one already. It's really easy to do. If you do have one, then you can use the same information that you had last semester. You just need to update it to be part of this notebook. And all you need to do for that is, again, just click through to this first assignment. And it'll start to ask you the questions that it needs to ask you. to set up your account and link it through the Blackboard site here. So that's all for this video. Like I said, there's a second video that is going to be coming out right behind this one, and it's going to be all about prepping for tomorrow's lab. So when you're done with this one, go ahead and look in that YouTube, see if you can find that other video that gets you ready for experiment number 1. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day.